Hello, Magic Casters! My name is Chance, welcome to my Spellbook, and thank you so much for tuning in to the 34th episode of our 3rd level spell series. We have... So, in case you're unfamiliar with the Ranger class, they get like these pseudo smites, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. In this case, it's called Lightning Arrow, but there are quite a few of them. I have personal gripes with these spells. I'll explain why in a little bit. However, there are some upside to them, I suppose. I'm not a huge fan of the Ranger in general. I know the Gloomstalker can be really good. I know there's a lot of times where multi-classing with them is beneficial. But, I mean, I don't know. I think you'll be hard-pressed to find a Ranger build in the meta. I think you'll be very hard pressed to find that, especially with the Arcane Archer being a thing, and especially with just the Rogue in general. I don't know. It's almost a meme at this point, to be completely honest. It's like, what's better than a Ranger with a bow? Every other class with a bow. And I know that's not technically the truest statement, but it feels like it sometimes. God, does it ever feel like it. I don't know, hopefully they'll get better with future subclasses coming out, but, I mean, who knows? I think they're just fundamentally kind of meh. Although, I am open to having my mind changed. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about Lightning Arrow, which is a spell exclusively found on the Ranger spell list, and it is found in the good old Player's Handbook, so accessibility to it should not be an issue in the faintest. Now let's dive right into its mechanics here. So its mechanics at a glance, the effect is your next ranged weapon attack deals 4d6 lightning damage on a hit, or half as much damage on a miss. Hit or miss, each creature within 10 feet of the target must make a Dexterity saving throw. Each of these creatures takes 2d8 lightning damage on a fail, or half as much on a success. Both effects of the spell increase by 1d8 for each slot level above 3rd. The cast time is 1 bonus action, the range is self, the duration is 1 minute, and it is concentration. The components are somatic and verbal, the school is transmutation, and the damage type is lightning. Overall, the person you target can take up to 6d8 lightning damage, which is pretty dang impressive. It's AoE, which is also really nice, at least to some extent, and whether or not you hit or miss on that initial attack, it still does damage, so you're never gonna really find this spell as a waste. However, if you haven't saw it already, my biggest complaint is that this is a concentration spell. If you removed the concentration component from it, and from all of the pseudo smite abilities of the Ranger, there's a good chance that you could stack this with something like Hunter's Mark, or if you multi-class, you could stack it with Hex, or some other ability or spell that requires concentration. I just think it's kind of a waste to drop whatever you're already concentrating on just for a single weapon attack, essentially. I think Wizards of the Coast did this kind of almost out of habit, right? Because in the Paladin's case, it makes a little bit more sense, just because the Paladin's smites, they're not just used by the Paladin. A lot of subclasses offer them up. The Cleric is an obvious example of that, right? So if a Cleric was able to concentrate on a heavier damage-dealing spell, and at the same time be able to smite, then it could be really cheesy, but I don't really know if that's the case with the Ranger, in all fairness. But, you know, whatever. You might disagree. If you do, let me know down beneath. However, that is the biggest deterrent I feel for this spell. Remedy it if you're a DM at your discretion. If you're a player and you want it remedied, bring it up to your dungeon master. However, by raw, it is the way it is. Now let's move on to its full description here. The next time you make a ranged weapon attack during the spell's duration, the weapon's ammunition or the weapon itself, if it's a thrown weapon, transforms into a bolt of lightning. Make the attack roll as normal. The target takes 4d8 lightning damage on a hit, or half as much damage on a miss instead of the weapon's normal damage. Whether you hit or miss, each creature within 10 feet of the target must make a dexterity saving throw. Each of these creatures takes 2d8 lightning damage on a failed save, or half as much damage on a successful one. The piece of ammunition or weapon then returns to its normal form. At higher levels, when you cast a spell using a spell slot of 4th level or higher, the damage for both effects of the spell increases by 1d8 for each slot level above 3rd. Very cool. It's very much like a usual smite would be. Added damage plus an additional effect. Pretty standard. The most common thing I've been asked about these Ranger pseudo-smites is whether or not you can combine it with Conjure Barrage. Conjure Barrage, we did a video on it. It essentially duplicates a piece of ammunition when you fire it and creates kind of a huge swath of them, and it deals damage in a cone. Sadly, these don't stack with it, however. Conjure Barrage mentions that it can't be magical, right? And this would, by definition, make it magical. So sadly not. I do think it's an interesting way to try and kind of game the system, but by raw, you'd run into more hurdles than it's worth. However, I mean, you know what? If you're a DM and you feel like this is underpowered, that might be a way to kind of remedy it. Although you have to be really careful when it comes to this one in particular, just because each arrow does AoE. So it might be a little rough. However, seeing as how it's a 3rd level spell slot, and seeing as how something like Fireball deals more damage, and with a larger area, mind you, I don't know. I'll leave that up to all of your discretion. I'm just saying it's something that gets asked a lot. By raw, the answer is no, but rule of cool, you know. In any case, though, let's move on to some alternative uses. This is a really hard one for me to do, just because it's just damage. That's all. There's not really any flavor text to play off of. There's some potentially interesting combos, I suppose, but no more or less than any other damaging spell, right? The only thing I can suggest is just using it to take down a group of enemies. It's not really an alternative use, just because it's kind of what it's meant to do. However, it's still something that shouldn't be understated, right? Taking down AoE damage in general is fantastic. The fact that it's elemental based means there are feats and abilities you can take that will potentially boost the damage, or certainly remove the minimum. Stuff like Elemental Adept, right? In addition to that, there are subclasses that focus on particular elements. The Barbarian has a couple, a Sorcerer has a couple, stuff like that. So if you're multi-classing, that might be something you want to look into. However, you know, it is what it is. It follows the same template as a couple other spells you've already talked about, so I'm not gonna pretend that it's something super amazing, but if it fits with your character, go for it. I 100% support that. That being said, though, let me know what you think down beneath in the comments section. If you have any thoughts, questions, comments, concerns, ideas, or stories of your own. And if you disagree with me, let me have it down beneath. I'm always interested in talking with you guys and seeing what you guys have to think. And if you don't know already, we're doing a couple different series, so stay posted throughout the day about them. Make sure you're subscribed, and always check the communities tab. I put the upload schedule in there with the links attached to all the videos. Odds are you're not going to get notifications, just kind of how YouTube works, as I'm sure you've probably heard from other creators. But just check there. I list them all out. I'm going to start automating those posts, so yeah, but first I got to get ahead enough where I can make that possible, obviously. And if you want to hop over to the guild hall and get a free one-shot, feel free to just use code WELCOME on checkout to get a free one. They're only $1 each, but might as well give back to the community. Let me know what you think about them. Honestly, I've put a lot of effort into them, so I really do hope you enjoy. And with all of that out of the way, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and of course, happy adventuring, everyone.